future? I think that's a pretty big question. Yeah. Breaking it down to more simpler level on how we look at it at Stardoll as an example. So basically we get a lot of people coming to our sites. A certain percentage of those create a free account, start playing around, customizing their account, and then if a few of them actually find it so fun that they decided, okay, I want to pay to get this extra stuff. I want to be seen, or I want to have access to something. And we've tried to make it fairly easy to pay. So you can pay with SMS, you can pay with fixed line telephone, you can pay with credit card. We really like when people pay with credit card, because then we get to keep 97%. And when you pay with SMS, we get to keep, depending on country, 35 to 60%. Go into Eastern Europe and you realize that the telecom operators in Sweden are actually pretty fair. Then you add on in next some local special deals, like in France they have something called Internet Plus, which runs through the ISPs. You try to figure out how you get as many members as possible to pay with your highest margin payment service. And sometimes you realize if you have a 14-year-old girl with her own prepaid card telephone, she's not going to pay with credit cards, so you're just happy to accept the SMS. And then you try and figure out, can we sell once more? Can we extend the membership that lasts for 30 days one more time? Okay. And you try to build a lifetime value that is as high as possible. And once you start hitting certain thresholds, we kind of switch from telling everyone you should buy brand advertising at our site. Start thinking like Ted did when buying sushi places near Handels. We go out and talk to big sites if they want to partner with us and say, if you send us your traffic of teenage girls, which you probably are pretty bad at making money from, to us, we're going to share the revenues with you, and then you try to build scale. Okay. Which then obviously feeds into the advertising. If you kind of get really big, you open up the possibility to sell the higher priced brand advertising.
What's your take, really quickly, and then before we open it up for questions, what's your take on the let's kind of build it and it will come, so kind of like let's build a big service and you have an idea what attracts people and the business model will happen later on, or should you right in the beginning when you start, should you be able to extract revenue from day one? Sorry.
I just think it's a luxury if you can. So if you have a service people have real need of, and you can fund it. Maybe you have sold Tidningsbutiken, or you have some other investors, then go for it. But if you don't, it's hey. And today it's actually quite tough to get those money in if you don't have them yourself. So yeah, it's tough times, I think.
Right. Henrik?
If you're building a company, and especially if you're looking at an exit further down the line or a sustainable company, you should start building the revenue model from day one. Even if you don't implement it fully, you need to think about it in how you design your website, how you set consumer incentives, etc. Because once you realize that you will need revenues, and in the end you will, which lots of companies are realizing right now, that 2.5 years ago they bought into this, the revenue will happen later, and then their banks kind of pulled their debt, or their VCs didn't fund an extra round, or the sales actually materialized much later, and all these kind of high-paid programmers and marketers, etc., kind of just burn through. Right. So you need to start from day one, because then if you get big, you still have 1 to 2 year lag before you get real revenue from brand advertising.
And yes or no, advertising is enough of a business model today?
It is enough if you have the right website and the right cost base.
Okay.
Probably we haven't really talked about the cost base.
Cost base, kind of like Ted's cost base.
Yeah, but I mean, you can look at Aftonbladet or most newspapers. Depending on their staffing, they can definitely be very profitable on ad sales if they're large enough. You need to be large.
Right. Ted?
I think if you're starting a business today, it's a luxury for like very few companies, like Twitter and stuff, to just focus on building a great service and not knowing what the business model is. Like especially like in my field, sort of this minipreneurship, like I think it's a very good idea to have a business model from the start, not just like I'm going to build this service and it's going to be, it might sound a bit strange coming from me since I don't work like that myself, but but I totally recommend, It's also like if you're starting a small business, it's very good for you mentally to sort of like have like a small income that you can, even if it's small, you can try to increase it, like, make it a little bigger next day, and the next day, and the next day. Otherwise, it's sort of easy if you don't have any revenues. It's like, well, it's going to come later. I can think about that later. It's sort of easy thing to sort of just.
So let me kind of conclude or wrap up what we have talked about already. So most of the talk has gone into advertising. So advertising is still the business model, whether it's brand like you guys do, whether it's actionable what Ted is doing, and then the kind of online goods and all that. So that can be there, but just building a user base and waiting is not really a valid strategy. So, but let me open up this to the questions, and let's hear from you guys. So let's start. Let's start from the second row.
Yeah, I actually have a question.